What's up, YouTube? This is Vic coming to you today with week 2 of Trading Card Game Player Tries to Predict Football. Yes, I am serious. I was serious. I'm turning this into a series. As for week 1 picks go, I suppose for a beginner an 8-8 record isn't too bad. Not what I would have wanted, but hey, gotta start from somewhere, and without further ado, let's get to the picks. First matchup starting off, very big headline behind this one, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm sure by now everybody's heard the situation revolving around Ray Rice and how it's affecting the entire organization. I'm going to make this as short and sweet as possible because the last time a team had somewhat of a controversy like this, aka the Dolphins with their situation last year, they were unable to rebound immediately after something like this. And after Pittsburgh showed its poise to be able to stand up and hold off the Browns week 1, I do not see this week 2 game ending well for the Ravens. It's going to take a little bit longer for them to rally around. This is the worst week possible to have a shortened week for the Ravens. I'm picking the Pittsburgh Steelers by at least a touchdown. Next matchup, we have the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills, and I have to say, Miami does look impressive. Not a whole lot of star power with that team, but they definitely showed themselves to be one of the more rounded teams per se around the league, minus some of the higher-ups between the Broncos and the Seahawks, but rounded enough that they can be easy playoff contenders at this point. The Bills also surprised me against the Bears defense. They were able to fight back in that one and then establish it in overtime. However, I do think the Dolphins will get off to a quicker start, establish their momentum first. I expect the Dolphins to take this one this week. Next matchup, Tennessee Titans versus the Dallas Cowboys. Wow, these are two polar opposite teams if you're looking at week 1 here. Because you've got one side who's supposedly doesn't have as good of a quarterback, as good of an offense, completely thrashed what was once known as a great Kansas City defense. Then you've got the Cowboys getting absolutely thrashed by a good defense. Granted, they'll have an easier time with the Titans this week, but if the Titans can show that same poise like I'm expecting them to, it's going to be a rough week for the Cowboys. Titans win that game. Next matchup, we have the Arizona Cardinals versus the New York Giants. And I'm going to make this one short and sweet. If the Giants' offense is going to do the same thing like they do in their normal week 1, week 2 scheme, Arizona's defense isn't going to let them have anything. I'm just throwing in the towel right there. Giants will lose by, let's say, 9 points. Touchdown and the safety. Next matchup, we've got New England Patriots versus Minnesota Vikings. Now, if I would have just looked at week 1 and then looked ahead to this matchup, I would have said Patriots all the way. But I gotta admit, the Vikings offense does look retooled and a lot stronger, and it did completely plow through St. Louis over the weekend. However, it does take a little time, per se, for Tom Brady to get reused to his younger receivers again. That and Gronk is still getting healthy in his own right again. I still say Patriots are going to win this one, but it is going to be a much narrower margin than I would originally have this week matchup to be in week 1. Expect the Vikings to fight back on this one. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if I got this wrong either way. Next matchup, we've got the New Orleans Saints versus the Cleveland Browns. Speaking of showing pretty good offense against veteran defense, the Cleveland Browns definitely held their own against the Steelers, and With the way St. Louis's defense has been haphazard lately, I do expect St. Louis to give up the points, but Drew Brees is going to fight a little bit harder next week because I know a quarterback like him will not want to fall to 0-2. I'm picking the New Orleans Saints to win this one. But like I said, this is one of those matchups that I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it went the other way. Next matchup, we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and Falcons had their way with New Orleans defense. Now they're going to face a much, much tougher defense and a much more consistent offense. And after giving up almost as many points to the Saints with their defense, Cincinnati is going to put up near that amount. Cincinnati's defense will hold a lot better than New Orleans did. Cincinnati, I pretty much said my pick 5 times ago. Next matchup, Carolina Panthers versus the Detroit Lions. Now it's amazing how tough these picks become on week 2 because Panthers showed that they are still strong, defense and offense-wise, even without Newton for a game. And the Lions turned up the offense. Matthew Stafford abused all of his weapons. I do think that the Lions' offense will have an edge over the Panthers' defense on this one. And even with their impressive performance, it was more of a defensive performance. I can't say the Panthers' offense will keep up with the Lions' offense without 100% Cam Newton. Lions take that one. Next matchup, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the St. Louis Rams. Wow, these two teams got thrashed last week. And honestly, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked more out of sorts than the St. Louis Rams did, even though the differences in both games were few and far between. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers look their same out of sorts selves they did last season. The Rams are a team that they will be likely to regroup this next week. I expect the Rams to take this one. Next matchup, we have the Seattle Seahawks versus the San Diego Chargers, and after a tough Monday night loss like that with, I'm just going to nickname him Blunder Rivers at the moment, this is the worst matchup to get after a really tough loss like that because the Seattle Washington defense will smell blood in the water. They are going to pick on Phillip Rivers all night. I'm not expecting this one to be close. Beast mode will come to play. Sherman will finally get his playing time and pick off 2 balls from Rivers. Seattle will win that one handedly. Next matchup, Houston Texans versus the Oakland Raiders. What I have to say about Houston? Welcome back defense. Even though Jadeveon and Clowney will be out for a little bit, the re-emergence presence that Watt is making even more so this season, even though he had a great year last year as well. Wow. I am not expecting this to be a good day for Oakland's line. And even if they double up Watt, you can only double up so many people before somebody's going to get through every single time. I'm expecting that to happen. Houston's offense is looking like they are showing a little health again. I'm expecting Houston to have fun with this one on defense. Next matchup, speaking of ones that I felt stronger about week 1 and not as much so week 2, the Green Bay Packers versus the New York Jets. And I gotta tell you, the Green Bay offense did not look like themselves against Seattle. And the Jets defense does look like they still have a little gas in the tank after a good matchup with Oakland. I want to say that the Packers have the ability, offensive speed-wise, to regroup and score massive amount of points. But I'm still also reserving the fact that the Jets have an insanely tough run defense, so it will force Rodgers to go through the air. And once they get that game plan established, Packers won't put up as many points. However, I do expect them to barely outgun the New York Jets defense. Packers, Week 2. Next matchup, we have Jacksonville versus Washington Redskins. Washington, I did not recognize that team at all. However, the little bit of an emergence of Jacksonville in that first quarter against Philadelphia, I was pretty impressed. If I was a Jacksonville coaching staff, I would be telling the defense, working on endurance drills on, okay, once we get to that early lead, how do we maintain that? How do we keep on the pressure? Washington's offense has not established itself as of yet. So if Jacksonville can pick up where they, on the improvements that they went with Week 1, and then go scoring happy early like they did, I do believe they can hold off Washington Redskins. Jacksonville, Week 2. Next matchup, we have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Denver Broncos. Speaking of defenses I don't recognize, wow. If Kansas City doesn't turn themselves around quickly, this Denver offense is going to destroy them. In fact, short, sweet, Denver blowout. Next matchup, San Francisco 49ers versus the Chicago Bears. And I'll make that short and sweet too. If San Francisco can put together that same kind of suffocating defense as they did against Dallas, they should have no issues with the Chicago Bears, even with their weapons. And then for our Monday night game, Philadelphia Eagles versus the Indianapolis Colts. And this one is a pretty tough pick based on what I've seen as of late. The Eagles have proven that late offense and their quick offense still functions, and still functions extremely well, even with LaShawn McCoy not giving as much as we expected them to. However, the Indianapolis Colts, even though this wasn't as big as a factor later in the game, the Colts still have the ability to score late touchdowns, late game points pretty often. Andrew Luck still has plenty of poise to make those late game adjustments. I do expect Philadelphia to get off to a quick start, maybe even a 10-13 point leads by halftime. But expect the Colts to put together one of their signature come from behind fourth quarter drives. Andrew Luck will lead the Colts back from a deficit to beat the Eagles in the final minutes. Well, those are my football picks for Week 2. Thank you for watching, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time.